Welcome to Our Drummers Musicians, your backstage pass to Melbourne's vibrant music scene. Recorded on a cosy couch in Brunswick, join us as we explore what it truly means to be a musician as we speak to the diverse talents that make music in our city. Today we have the privilege of sitting down with legendary drummer Tony Floyd, an integral figure in Melbourne's music scene and beyond. Not only has Tony established a remarkable career as a recording artist with contributions to over 100 albums, but his versatility across various genres has earned him widespread acclaim as a recorded and touring musician. His foundational role as drummer and vocalist in The Things of Stone and Wood led to an iconic Melbourne band that secured gold CD sales, multiple top 10 hits, and earned an ARIA award. Their success propelled them on tours across the UK, Europe, Australia and Canada, and they shared stages with many artists including Midnight Oil, York and Hall & Oates. Tony's established himself as one of the most sought-after drummer percussionists in the country, with a career spanning over 30 years. His versatility has seen him collaborate with a wide array of artists, including Men at Work, Kate Ceberano, Eurogliders, Deborah Conway, Gurrumul, Missy Higgins, Vince Jones and Renee Geyer, as well as backing internationally renowned figures like Hugh Jackman, Chindamo, Eartha Kitt and Lee Konitz. Tony is a dedicated educator, sharing his vast knowledge with the next generation of musicians. He's currently touring and recording with Joe Camilleri and the Black Sorrows, a band he has been with for over 24 years. Join us as we explore Tony's musical journey, delving into his remarkable achievements and his enduring passion for music. We want to take a moment to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional custodians in the land in which this podcast was recorded. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Luke. Good to be here.
What album have you been most recently listening to, Tony?
Listening to Daniel Herkestal. I might be able to pronounce that correctly. His album, I think it's a single, Sunbeam. But he's a Norwegian lower brass player, and it's he plays sort of ambient Euro it's improvisatory kind of music. It's very ambient.
How did you find him?
Probably through Olafur Arnold, an Icelandic minimalist
Yes.
player, because it was probably on a shared playlist. I think I've been using a sleep playlist, which I compiled, and it's like up to 5.5 hours of music, and I put that on when I go to sleep more often than not. And then when you have that wake up at 3 a.m., there's still this ambient music going on in the background. And sometimes I think playlists, they suggest other music. So I think I would have accidentally pressed add Daniel Herkestal, and I heard that and went, who is that? And then delved into his work.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, the stuff that you'd played me.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting because obviously your tastes and your well actually I think as a musician and the kind of musician I am, I think my tastes are incredibly diverse because I find that I get meaning and interest and passion from a wide array of music. But it's I think because of a lot of the music I play, I've been often going to more kind of chill ambient kind of music.
Yes.
Yeah, which is just an interesting phase I'm going through.
Yeah, well, I guess it comes and goes with different things, and you do play a lot of different types of music. So
yeah.
Perhaps that's one of the fewer genres, most of it's like solo piano or very sparse ambient without much drums.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if I'm doing 3 or 4 gigs a week, then naturally I'm playing the drums and probably possibly singing as well. So there's a lot going on, and so I find at home, especially in the evening, it's just like a chill, relaxed music is good for me at the moment.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot going on. Tell us a bit about what's been keeping you so busy. What are you working on at the moment?
Yeah, I mean the working week for me is mainly made up of first and foremost Black Sorrows gigs. So the band, the Black Sorrows, has been around since 1984. I've been a member since about 1994, so it's coming up to 30 years. And Joe Camilleri, the leader of the band, he's a bit of a workaholic, even at the age of 75. And so we work, on average, it seems like about 2-3 gigs a week, 45, 46 weeks of the year.
Wow!
So it's like a sort of job in the sense that you're working a lot, but and that takes me all around the country and overseas in many of the more recent years, as pre and post COVID.
Yep.
But then I have a jazz residency gig I do most Thursdays when I'm around. Pick up gigs with lots of other people. Recording projects interspersed with that, and teaching 2.5 days a week at various institutions. So, I'm a workaholic, but I love my work. I really do, and both as a performer and a teacher.
Yeah, I think that really comes across. Most people that know you or that I run into, and it turns out that they know you. Everybody knows you as Floydy, super passionate, very excited, really fun to hang out with, and very passionate about music. Like, where do you think that drive and passion has come from, and what's enabled you to be able to keep it for so long?
Well, it's because of the music. Like, I don't, I don't look at my work or my job from an outside lens. So I look at it as it's what I do, and so music is what I do, and the only way to do it in my book is to be passionate about it and love what you do. I think it stems from particularly adolescence, when you're listening to music and it becomes a meaningful part of your life, and then if you find, wow, I can play music, and that feeling, it transcends into what I do. So it's a passive listening experience, and then as a performer, it's an active listening experience. So the feelings and the passion transcend from both the listener to the doer. And I think I was definitely a real jazz nerd as a sort of teenager, and so delving into a style and niche of music really helped activate the passion. And it means for me, I got really nerdy about facts, like who drummed on this album, can I sing the guitar solo from this album, and where was it recorded, who engineered it, at what studio was it done at. All of these things meant something, and so I think, and then I had an epiphany in my early 20s when I started to play different styles of music. So I guess more modern, contemporary styles of music, rock, funk, pop. And next thing you know, I'm in a band with a couple of guys I met, and I'm singing, and we're playing original music together, and we're writing songs, and that was the band Things of Stone and Wood, and it sort of it opened up this whole new world of music, and therefore a stream of creative interest, but also passion towards music as a whole. So I think from that moment, certainly I just do, the blinkers were off, and I was on a fun ride of music discovery, which I still feel I'm on and propelling through.
So what introduced you, I suppose, to the jazz music that you've had the first passion for?
Yeah, would have been my dad's record collection.
Yep.
Growing up with two older sisters, I had the Sherbet sister. So Michelle was Sherbet, and sort of a more super pin-up pop. Christine, slightly younger, but much older than me. Christine was like the Cure, a bit more alt punk, new wave kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I'm playing the drums, I just pick up records, put them on, and drum to them.
Yep.
So there was all of this influence from my sisters, but then I was gravitating to my dad's records. Now, in a nutshell, Dad was he was one of the first subscribers and sort of patrons as a subscriber to 3 PBS FM.
Okay.
Back in the late 70s.
Oh, cool.
And they had a contemporary jazz show which he would tape on cassettes, and then he'd listen to the cassettes of the shows in the car, and then go and buy the albums that he liked from the show.
Oh, cool.
And that was how I got introduced to Pat Metheny, John Abercrombie, Keith Jarrett, John Schofield, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden there's these weird, to me at the time, ECM albums, ECM being a German label which is Editions of Contemporary Music, a label that still exists. And so I found the jazz albums and jazz playing, bebop, modal, post-bop, free jazz, was then kind of hooking into this huge teen introspective interest in the ECM style jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I said, I got pretty nerdy pretty quickly with my listening. But looking back, it was a really unusual listening influence for a 15, 16-year-old.
Sure.
Yeah.
So was Vince Jones your first, I guess, big jazz artist that you worked with and did a lot of recording and tours with?
It was. It's the catalyst there was at the end of year 11. Mel Webb, who's a Melbourne music identity, and I were at school together, and teacher Rob McWilliams, another great influence in my music making, teacher at school, he suggested we sign up for this jazz clinic, which was where a whole lot of American musos who were touring gave these workshops. It also happened that Steve Settergreen was there, so he's the same age as me, so I met Steve, who's a lifelong music connection. But the bottom line is, at that clinic, it turns out, unbeknownst to me, I was kind of, pretty good at playing the jazz. And so a whole lot of older musicians, Rob Burke, Jack Saralat, Steve Hadley, these Melbourne identities, they heard me play, and they actually played in, little groups with me. I had no idea how they worked 'cause I was just a high school kid. And Jack Saralat, Vince saw me play there, but Jack Saralat, he employed me from first year uni onwards to be in his band, and he taught me a lot about listening and group playing and working on repertoire. and then Vince, he poached me from Jex's band. So I was 19 and second year uni, and I was in Vince's band, which was kind of going from go-karts to Formula One in a kind of opportunity sense. Vince was, again, he was doing 2-3 gigs a week. He was playing Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, regional places. So I went from I was basically playing in his band almost full time, while being a student, while doing 100 other gigs already at age 19. So it set up a pretty good program.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty amazing because there's, it's very few amount of musicians maintaining within the jazz genre to be able to play that much, and then also for you to get the gig so young.
Yeah.
It's a testament to how great you were as a player, but also, it must have been, I guess, challenging at times too, being so young and thrown into, the spotlight with Vince.
It was, and Barney McCall, another great Melbourne musician, he was in Vince's band just before me. He's a year older than me, and so we were these, we were sharing rooms together on tour. We were the Doug DeVries called us the Brady Bunch, and we were like thick as thieves. And it's the first time I'd met someone and hung out with someone, with Barney, that we listened to the same kind of music.
Okay.
So we were big, Jarrett, Matheny fans, like contemporary jazz, I guess. But we're also well schooled in the house of bebop and Miles. Yeah. So you had Doug DeVries, world class guitarist, Gary Costello on bass, Paul Williamson on saxophone. So it was an incredible band. Ray Pereira percussion.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
All great influences on me when I was young. Yeah.
How does it all fit in now in like the modern era of your career? You've done so many different things. How do you go about choosing who you're with? Like, you've stayed with the Sorrows for so long.
Yeah.
What's the framework that you choose with?
I think I've evolved to understand that I love being in bands. Like, I find the social and work environment of being in a band, I find that most pleasing, because yes, I've done a lot of freelancing. So and I've had periods where maybe I wasn't in bands, or the bands weren't working as much or something, so you're flying around doing 4 or 5 gigs a week, but with different bands every week, learning new repertoire all the time, which is great. But that becomes a bit helter-skelter. So, things like Vince Jones, that was a band. Then Things of Stone and Wood, a band. And then the Black Sorrows, a band. So there's kind of, 3 bands that I've had long and influential relationships with in my career. So I know that, yes, playing regular gigs that I love is important. And you're well aware of my 3-step professional plan.
Yes, it's great.
Which I mean, I think I've adapted it. I don't know if I stole it directly, but it's it's kind of a basis on which to try and build a successful outlook on playing music, and the 3-step plan, and this is in order, right, of importance. The 3 things, 1, the music you play; 2, the people you play it with; and 3, the remuneration. So what ability do you have to earn a living from it? So you're aiming to do a 3 out of 3 gig, but based on so the Black Sorrows, for me that's a no-brainer because it's the music's fantastic for me. The people are fantastic, and the band members, and you get paid well to do it. But at the same time, this Thursday, I'm doing a 2 out of 3 gig, and that's the criterion is you try and get at least 2 out of 3. So this Thursday I'm playing what we've done this before, but it's the people are James Sherlock and Simon Starr, and the music we play is like it's fantastic, but we get paid bugger all, but that's fine.
Yep,
that's fine. And so that's kind of often how I run what I do.
Yep.
But I'm lucky too because I can pick and choose certain things that I do. So obviously for a musician, there are periods in your life where some of the gigs are going to be 1 out of 3, and that might be just the money. I don't really operate like that, but I'm lucky I don't have to. But it's funny because music. I'm a member of the Musicians Union, the Entertainment Alliance, and there was the big survey done, and the results came out just a couple of days ago. And the average annual earnings for the members of the Musicians Union is like $6,000. So most practitioners involved in music, are making ridiculously low amounts of money, and that goes in all of the arts. It's and it's a very competitive field, so it's difficult. But I mean, again, I feel lucky that I've managed to, run a career in music. But then again, it comes down to passion and creativity and enjoying it.
Yeah. So I guess how do you bring the two things of, you have all this passion and you're very creative and you do lots of different things, but also with the technical side of practically pulling it off, and you must have done an incredible amount of practice to get you to where you are now.
Yeah, I have. There's I was never super talented as a junior. There was no, my goodness, prodigy. There was none of that. It was hard work and a lot of practice, but the practice was enjoyable, and the lonely pursuit of practicing is still enjoyable. I have to be frank here, and I know this is going to the public, but I have done so little practice in the last 20 to 30 years because I've been so busy playing. Now I still prepare and practice, but not as much as I did when I was younger. But the word practice is interesting too because it's how you practice and what the methods are. Like I know, right, that, and I've talked about this with some people recently. I know that for me, I do a lot of my practice by listening. So I don't need to go to the drums. I'm just listening. So whatever record I put on, big vinyl fan, or whatever CD I've got on in the car, I'm really good at listening and processing, and I think that's how my brain works in terms of practicing. So I'll remember something that I've heard on a record, and I'll grab it, and it'll integrate into my playing. So it's interesting because there's a lot of sort of oral practice.
Yeah, but I suppose it's such a mindful activity. You're deep focusing on the listening.
Yeah,
and it's it's normally the deep focus working on the really hard thing or focusing on something particular that's much more beneficial than just sitting there and shedding rudiments for
Exactly.
hours.
Yeah, because I mean, I know what the rudiments are, and I work on singles and doubles, and that's very cut and dry for me, and I still do it in terms of practice. But it's what I'm listening to that shapes how I play more than anything. And look, as a musician and the craft of it, I know what I can't do. And so I know that I have to practice more at the things I can't do.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's knowing that's, I mean, look, there is no ceiling. There's no finish line. I'll propel and still propagate practice and listening and developing all the time. And that's important. I'm always wanting to improve. That's for sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Are there any people that are really inspiring you with that right now? Like we spoke about the sort of ethereal and soundscape type music, but drummers or otherwise.
I think I know in the last 20 years, I know that Antonio Sanchez had a big effect on how I play and how I approach playing. Eric Harland, Jay Bellarose, who's plays with Ray LaMontagne and a big recording drummer. Aaron Sterling,
I think.
Aaron Sterling. Sorry, Aaron. So and Jay and Aaron, they're more on a kind of sonic and recording sense.
Yep.
Matt Chamberlain, definitely. So, yeah, but again, like my influences often don't come from the drums. So by listening to like last year, I was a big fanboy of Oliver Arnold.
Yeah.
And so that was about experiencing music in a different way. And yet it will influence how I play.
Sure.
Yeah. And like if I had to name the biggest influence on my musical life, even though it doesn't easily translate or is discernible to what I do, it's Pat Metheny.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like his work ethic, his discography is just an incredible. He's the most major musician in my life. In terms of what he's done.
And it sounds like it has been throughout, the full journey of your musical career.
Yeah, he's been a constant, and look, I have a little saying, which again I'm sure has been used by someone else, but you are a confluence of your influence. So that means you are the melting pot of everything you've done or listened to. Which means that, obviously Philly Joe Jones, I'm going to quote him or use what he does in some way. Same with Elvin Jones, but same with Steve Gadd, same with Antonio Sanchez. But all of those drummers, of course, have been shaped in how they play by John Coltrane, Miles Davis, John Scofield, Pat Metheny. So in other words, the drummers only play in reaction to someone else as well. So yeah, you have to discern all the influences, of what they play.
Yes.
With who they play.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Tony, I wanted to ask you about what it was like playing drums with Gurrumul.
Yeah, that was an incredible experience, and Gurrumul, Yongle man from Elcho Island. I miss him greatly. So Michael Honan, ex-Melbourne muso, he called me to see if I was available to play and play live and tour with Gurrumul. And Gurrumul had a first album that was just basically guitar, double bass, and Gurrumul, and that was like, you know, a 6 times platinum album. It was, you know, it was like incredible world music album.
Yeah.
And the second album was coming out, and Michael sent me the music, and there was no drums on it whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it was beautiful. It was incredible. And I said, Michael, why do you want me to play music on, like to play drums on this? This is like incredible, right? And he goes, well, look, Gurrumul plays pretty much every instrument. He says Gurrumul really misses having a drummer because he used to play Nyothu Yindi, and so he really wants the songs to have, you know, extra instrumentation. So I said, well, I'd love to do this. And so things moved along. Gurrumul's on Elcho Island. Michael's in Darwin. And Ben Edgar, great Melbourne guitarist, he and I were asked to play live shows with Gurrumul to support his new album.
Yep.
And so it's getting closer and closer to the gigs. Now, the first gig, it was 2 nights at the Sydney Opera House, sold out shows.
Wow.
And, you know, sort of 2 weeks before, no, there's no rehearsal. We won't rehearse. We'll just go through things at sound check.
Whoa.
So you're listening to 2 albums.
Can I just check, had you played drums on the new album?
No, but both first and second album, no drums.
Okay.
I think there was drums on one track. The second album, Rakala, which Gurrumul played the drums on.
Mm-hmm.
So you're listening to this music, and, you know, it was the first time I'm going, this is sonically just incredible. What? Anyway, so it got to the day of the sound check, and Gurrumul's, you know, as I found out later, he's, you know, infamous for not showing up for sound checks. Now, so we're sound checking at the Sydney Opera House, and, you know, they're very strict on, you know, finish times, doors. You know, it's not like you can hold doors at the Sydney Opera House. Anyway, so it's just Ben Edgar and I, who'd never done the gig before, and Francis Stevchenko, who played acoustic guitar with Gurrumul, strumming through chords, at the sound check, because Michael has to look after Gurrumul. So the sound check's not with the artist or the MD, and we've never played the songs. So we just basically check our instruments. So Ben and I are freaking out because we're about to step on stage with Gurrumul, who we hadn't even met yet, to play at the Sydney Opera House. Now, credit to Michael Honan. He knew why he was employing Ben Edgar and myself. And it's interesting because that what I talked about before about influences, like playing with Gurrumul, like walking on stage with Gurrumul, having never played with him before, not having worked through any of the songs, it was like playing on an ECM album because it was just textural brushes, cymbal colours, mallets on toms. So I was just improvising through a live gig at the Sydney Opera House with someone.
Wow.
Even this, like the Ben Edgar and I, we got thrown because the set, Michael didn't have a set list until kind of half an hour before the gig. And Michael said, look, we'll do a couple, just the 3 of us, and then you guys come on like on the 3rd tune. So Ben and I, we had the set list, and of course it says, you know, Jaromir, Wak, Jamiri, you know, Wundakane Hali. So, of course, we were so used to, you know, having English song names that you look and you're looking at your notes going Jamiri, Jirawara, Kanjo, and it's like it was really confusing.
Yeah, I bet.
So you're looking at a set list in what was to me a foreign language, of course, because it's in Yongle. Yeah, so that was the start of playing with Gurrumul, and from the first gig and the first notes and the experience, it was like a magic carpet ride.
Wow.
Of experience, and it was so deep and rich, and it felt old. It felt weird. It felt this bizarre connection. It took me to Japan, to India, to Europe, to America. We played all over the world with Gurrumul, and all the we developed a real compatibility and action together with the band.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So how long did that group stay together for?
Well, it's funny because that was the other thing. Like I stuck through with Gurrumul, for a good 2 or 3 years, till he passed away. But apart from Michael Honan, the band changed all the time.
Right. So
Ben Edgar didn't do many shows after that initial run, and then there's like 4. I got my good mate James Black involved towards the end, but that was sort of different people.
Okay.
Except Michael and Gurrumul were the constant.
Was it a similar thing of no rehearsals and no preparation, just come and play?
Never rehearsed.
Okay.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to play on the last studio album.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like, that felt like, okay, we can, by recording his music, we're able to basically rehearse it because we have to run through it.
Yes. So
that felt like I was getting somewhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an experience.
Yeah, but that evolved into Erkki Wertheim, a Icelandic, Finnish Australian viola player. He arranged a lot of his music for symphony orchestra. So later on in that experience, we played with the SSO, the Sydney Symphony Orchestra, at the Opera House.
Wow.
And what was the most awesome feeling that was Erkki Wertheim, who had to conduct. When he first met Sydney Symphony, he said, "Listen, my conducting, my downbeat will be where the beat is. I don't want the strings to play behind like sometimes they do."
Yep.
But he said, for most of the songs, your conductor will be, I'd like to introduce, Tony Floyd on the drums. So all of a sudden, I'm there up the front next to the double basses, waving to the Sydney Symphony Orchestra going, I'm the conductor.
Cool.
So that was exciting.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. And that was great too, because by that stage it was a audio visual show, so there were scripted cues, there was some tracks to play to,
mm-hmm.
and it was conducting the orchestra in and
wow,
and setting dynamics and tempo things. So
cool.
Big learning curve there.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we're sort of coming towards the end of the podcast.
Aww.
I know you'll have to come back again because we could chat for hours and hours.
Absolutely.
But so first up, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
As we play this game, question for the next guest. Segment still to confirm the name, but we have a question for you from our previous guest, a young drummer, Jude Harris.
Yeah.
Hello. If you could take a musician that you idolize to Macca's or KFC or Hungry Jack's, any of those fast food sloppy joints, who would you take and have a really deep discussion with over a Big Mac or, yeah?
I'd take Pat Metheny, and I'd take him to Taco Bell, and hope that he might put up with that. And obviously, it wouldn't be about the food; it would be about the conversation.
Do we have Taco Bell in Melbourne?
There's only about 3 or 4 of them.
Okay.
And there's one in Paran, High Street. There's one in Narre Warren. I know that because I've eaten at it. There's one in Geelong, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
What question would you like to ask the next guest? But actually, I'll just say, because I know that you know who my next guest is, but I'm going to give it to someone else, so you don't know who it's going to.
Yeah. If you could play any other instrument at the same level you play yours, what would it be? And if you got as good at it, would you change instruments?
Oh, cool. I like that question. All right. Well, we'll finish up, Tony, with just 5 quick answer questions.
Yep.
What is your favourite venue to play at in Melbourne?
The Forum.
What is your dream venue to play at?
Wembley.
What is your coffee order?
Long black.
What's your favourite place for food after a gig?
Usually an Indian meal, so a curry.
And what's one piece of advice that you'd give to your younger self?
That's... Sorry, you want a short answer?
No, it's okay.
That's a tough one. Follow your dreams, but I did that anyway, so that wouldn't change anything.
Well, maybe you don't want to change anything.
Have kids earlier. There you go. Have kids earlier.
All right, thanks, Tony. So, where can the listeners of this new podcast find you and your music? And if they want to reach out to, book you for gigs or ask you to, produce an album with them or something like that.
Okay. I'm not big on social media, but I am, I think, Anthony Floyd on Facebook. And you can probably contact me through the Black Sorrows management.
Yep.
Or directly by my phone number.
I don't know. We should put that out there.
Yeah, exactly. Or through you, Luke.
You're cool. People contact the podcast and we'll put you in touch.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
All right, excellent. I'd be happy to provide that service.
Thank you, Luke.
Thanks so much for coming on the podcast, Tony. It's been fun.
Pleasure.
Thanks for joining us on Our Drummers Musicians. I hope you enjoyed getting to know another Melbourne muso like I did. Help us grow by leaving a review, share the podcast with friends and family, and subscribe on our website for extra info. Got a guest you'd love to hear on the show? Please let us know at ourdrummersmusicians.com. See you next time.